And if your career was to end tomorrow, God forbid, you know it won't, but
Please. Someone give me a break.
look at it now.
I'm Grace Beverley on set with GAFFER for the 100, powered by Comey. I would say definitely that I spend a large majority of my time sat at my desk, probably eating like a cup of soup. I would say probably someone like Emma Greed on the podcast. I think that would make me very happy. I'd say a bit of a left field one, but I would say last year I spent a lot of time working on a campaign to overturn some legislation around investing that would have made it really, really hard for women to invest and get investment, which is already almost impossible statistically. And there's a group of women as part of a campaign called Invest Her, and they've done such incredible work within the space. And yeah, I just think the amount of time and effort that they've put behind that, especially on top of the fact that they are the ones having to kind of fight all of the inequalities in place anyway at the same time, I think, yeah, very inspiring to me. I think an easy kind of real pinch me moment was around this time last year where we launched our outerwear, our third outerwear collection maybe, yeah, it was definitely the third. And I've never seen anything like it. We put so much into that campaign, but also something like outerwear is very, very complex to make and very expensive to get stock made of. So it was a huge risk, but we ended up doing £1 million in the hour that we launched the collection, and it was just the biggest pinch me moment to see the business take off like that. I think I would just say, stop caring what other people think of you and how you're perceived. I think I spent a lot of time thinking about how I was perceived, whereas I would just say to her how much the things that make you feel a little bit different and make you feel not great when you notice that are actually the things that are going to become your strengths. So back in 2021, I restructured the entirety of TALA. So basically pulled it completely apart from what it was at the time, restructured it completely, all with the aim of getting it to be the brand that I thought it had the potential to be, and it wasn't in the place to do that at the time. It was a huge risk. It took well over a year and it was so draining, and the business nearly died as part of it. But it was so worth it, and I'm so glad I did it, and it's made me a better business owner as well. I think it would be Whitney Wolfe Herd. I'd like to get some tips from her. Ben Horowitz. He wrote a book called The Hard Thing About Hard Things, which during that time that I was restructuring the whole business, that book like saved me. And there is this amazing author called Gia Tolentino who writes essays on popular culture and things that don't usually have essays written on them, and they are so interesting, and I feel like I could yap with her for hours. Do you know what I'm a really big fan of? Is a Kindle. I love my Kindle. My Kindle will be with me at I carry a Kindle like people carry a phone. I just think for someone who likes to read as much as I do, being able to carry that many books at once is really quite life-changing. Oh yeah, it would be Love Island Season 3 or Les Mis the musical. Traitors, definitely Traitors. I can't tell you how impressive it is. I am so good at catching mosquitoes. It's actually not that useless. It's a very helpful skill, but it's kind of, I don't know where that skill comes because I don't have those reflexes in any other, walk of life, but catching mosquitoes. Okay, I think Georgia Smith, maybe like a throwback something just like a good time, throwbacky. I saw Avril Lavigne at Glastonbury, and that was the time of my life. Although my sister sat there, didn't know any of the words, and I'd actually taken her mum to a gig. Something like that, or like an ABBA, you know, something where we're just having a good time. Yeah, Kate Trinada for sure. Genre, it would be highly stressful, but also kind of painfully boring at times documentary. You know, one of those ones that you started and it looked really interesting, and then just like as you went through, you're like, maybe this shouldn't have been made into a documentary. And then what I would want it to be, like a little heartwarming comedy, you know? One of those ones that you feel really good after you've watched it. Sorting mosquitoes. Well, I actually did train as a classical musician, so I guess it would have to be that, but I'd probably want it to be something more exciting, but I just don't have that in my wheelhouse. I would sell pick and mix, and it would be called, can I crowdsource the name?
Pick and mix.
Oh, we wouldn't be doing very well on SEO. Where's the search engine? Nothing is supposed to come up anywhere.
That's great. Just what it says in the tin.
Probably the one I've spent most time listening to is Georgia Smith, Lost and Found. Ellie Saab, Girl of Now. I love, okay, when you work out in the morning and you know you're then trying to get dressed really fast and it's all not working, you're very red, the makeup's not, you know. I do an ice roller right after I work out. So as I'm like straight out the gym, into the freezer, ice roller, and then just keep doing that until it's acceptable to put on my makeup and it won't come straight off. Oh, I absolutely loved our TALA launch in Selfridges. Was so exciting. Just so great to meet so many customers, and also just to like sit and watch people shop. Like, we've been so online for 5 years, and just seeing people browse, seeing what they go towards, how they interact with the product. As a big like product nerd, for me, that was, yeah, just, it was such a pinch me moment as it was, but to be able to kind of see that was amazing. I would say pretty much anything that I went to at Glastonbury. I thought I would come out with a quick, clear winner, and there was so much that was so good. Mushrooms on toast, easy. Bibendum. I don't actually know, but you know what I do know, and what I do really well is every time I hear a song that makes me feel happy or hyped, I add it all into one playlist called You're Good, and then any time I need to feel good, it's just, like, they're all different genres, but any single time I just listen to that. Probably like an old chick flick, like a St. Trinian's type. You cannot make me say slow. It's not the only one that's coming to my head, or I'm not going to say it. There is a very special place in my heart for the south of France. Got a lot of great memories there. It's where I got engaged. It's where I'm getting married, you know. I'd be there all the time if I could. If you see me disappear, that's where I've gone. Dinner parties. Karaoke, but I can get a bit overwhelmed. Keep it casual. Night in. Books. Cinema. Displayed as an extrovert, really love spending time on my own. Michelin star. Play sports. Pasta. Passenger. Don't be ridiculous. Sand. City. Relax. Texting. How could you make me choose? That's the hardest question you've asked. Reality TV. I mean, I think that something like entrepreneurship is a journey that can look so different at so many different times. Like, it's felt so different at every single stage of the business. I feel like I've not even touched the surface of what kind of that avenue is. I really try and maintain focus as well, as you can see by that list. But that for me is the real concentration. Although I do want to genuinely prioritize non-work time as much as I prioritize those things. I'm a long way away from it, but it's nice to think about the possibility. I'll do a whistle-stop tour, because if there's one thing I cannot do, it's be concise. So I will really try. But I started my first business in my first year at university, but it did not look like the type of business that you'd see now. It was kind of very much, it was a business in the way that I was selling things, and it moved very slowly over the next few years in terms of, I'd probably have like one new product a year or something like that I was really kind of concentrating on bringing out. I started my second business in my final year at university, and we've kind of gone from there. I think, one of the biggest parts of my journey is that when I came to the end of university, when I just started my second business, which I was really passionate about, I just kind of realized that the influencer part of my job was great as an add-on, but really didn't work for me as like the main thing. I just was not, the type of work that it was just wasn't fulfilling me on a daily basis, and I was ending up feeling pretty exhausted, but also like I like to throw myself into things, and I want to be working with people, and I want to be like problem solving, and I want to be building and all of these things. And I just found that combined with like the need for constant feedback all the time in order to be doing well at that job just didn't end up suiting me. So I made a really conscious decision at that time. Like, I deleted all of my videos on YouTube, like every single video, and that was kind of I knew in myself that I didn't want to do kind of influencer as a full-time job, and at the same time I knew that it would be too easy to kind of do if I still gave myself the option. So I kind of just took away that option from myself completely, and really, planned out what I want my future to look like. And actually in that future, it was more about, really putting a lot into building these businesses, creating like a literal workplace for me to go to every day. Like, I feel kind of ridiculous sometimes at the thought that I've like built myself an actual 9-to-5 office to go to. It feels pretty counterproductive to me. But I love it, and I've built myself, I guess, a job that I really love in that way. So it's just been an evolution from that point. And I guess all the main turning points have just been about really working out, like, what do I care about a lot? What do I feel passionate about doing? I think I am one of those people that really enjoys work. And I think the more I've kind of owned that, the more I've really loved my career, because it just makes me feel fulfilled. It makes me feel happy. I love working with people. And I guess, like, here we are now. Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, there's been a huge advantage that social media in general has brought to the businesses. I think that, there's no doubt that there are pros and cons of both sides. Like, you get this kind of ready-made audience to talk to about it, not necessarily with any marketing spend, even if you've built that audience yourself. I think that also, it was a huge baptism of fire starting the businesses at a point where they had to be able to provide for that full customer base and make no mistakes for that full customer base, whilst at the same time, it being the first order that we would ever be fulfilling, for example. But there's no doubt that it's been hugely beneficial. And I think that, I try and just really show the reality of it as much as possible. I really think that there's a lot of misconceptions out there about entrepreneurship and what it looks like, and the kind of glamour of business owning and all of that. And actually the reality is that there's no one size fits all, and it's definitely not right for everyone. It's right, and there are so many different types of businesses and all of that. But what I really try and do online is just showing, this is what I'm doing. Take it or leave it, enjoy, or like whatever it might be. But I really trying to get some transparency into the entrepreneurship sphere. I think the first lesson is that I like performing under pressure, and I find a lack of pressure uninspiring. I think that's not necessarily the best for cortisol levels, but I think knowing the type of person you are and what you thrive in is really important. And I think for so long I took the fact that I was someone who would put myself under high stress as a negative thing, and I actually just know that I am that type of person, and sometimes I need to tone it down, but also at the same time that's what gets great results, and sometimes that's what you need to really lean into, and that's what you need to sometimes that makes some people fulfilled, and that's fine. I think that for me it's really been a journey of understanding what's too much, what's the right amount, where do I need to kind of step back from that. But I think navigating the type of worker you are and the way you do work and how it makes you feel, whether you work best under stress or not under stress, I think as long as you know which one you are and are able to mitigate when you're in the other side, I think is really important. My biggest piece of advice would be for men to take women seriously in the workplace and women not to worry about it. I feel like, I've spoken a lot before about the fact that, we spend a lot of time talking to women about imposter syndrome and asking women how they find imposter syndrome and all of this. And imposter syndrome only exists because we don't create workspaces where people see the type of person they want to be at that level. So whether that is about seeing a woman in that position, whether that is about seeing a black woman in that position, whatever it might be, imposter syndrome is entirely related to not seeing yourself echoed in that position, and actually that's not for the person to sort out themselves, that's for the systems to sort out, so that you don't doubt that you're meant to be there because you can see yourself represented in that space. Again, I think there really is no one-size-fits-all approach. I have often said, you can have it all, but you can't have it all at once. And I think that at the same time as balance has been something that people really aspire to, it's also become another unrealistic expectation. I think a lot of us then put pressure on the fact that we don't have good work-life balance. And sometimes you're not going to have good work-life balance. If you're going for a promotion, you may well not get good work-life balance. And at the same time, if you're going through a breakup or in a new relationship, or you've got something going on with your family, whatever it might be, you're also not going to have a lot of that kind of as much leaning into work. And I think that we need to give ourselves a lot more room when it comes to understanding that balance isn't something that looks 50-50, and it's not something that looks the same for everyone, and it's not something that looks the same in every season of your life, but it's just something that you need to be able to kind of find for yourself. And for me, that's really about just setting boundaries. I know the types of things that are going to burn me out. I know that if I'm Monday to Thursday, if more than 2 of those evenings I have something working late or something with friends, literally whatever it might be, I know that's going to be a burnt out week. And it's just about understanding those parts of yourself and being able to operate accordingly. I really want to have a great life and feel I love the people around me and I am loved by them and I'm having a great time and enjoying their company and all of these things. And that's not to say that something like work doesn't come into that, because it absolutely does. And I actually think for me that's pretty central to that. I love that side of my life. But I think I worry less about legacy and worry more about how I'm spending the days and my time, before we even start to think about legacy. What has been the biggest obstacle you've had to overcome thus far, and how did you deal with it? I'd say the biggest obstacles have always been around big pivots, whether it was restructuring the entire business and nearly losing the whole thing, whether it was about coming out of university and using that moment to literally change the entire career that I'd spent the past, 4 years building. I think that those crunch moments were always just felt like so much. And I think that without a doubt, those are the best decisions I've made and the things that were most worth it to go through. So I think now the way I overcome these types of times is by knowing that if I feel like that, it's probably because sometimes you need to feel a bit uncomfortable to push yourself into a point that you are even better off in. And actually that, you know, we say that nothing good happens in your comfort zone, but I think even more than that, I think that when you're feeling uncomfortable and you're feeling like you're pushing yourself and you're feeling like you're trying to get to that next level, it's usually quite a good thermostat for showing that you are starting to go further than your expectations and further than what you even thought was possible for yourself. And so I sometimes just use that as a thermostat to be like, okay, well, I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable, but that's probably because, you know, I'm pushing and I'm going for the next level, and that's a good thing.
Thank you so much, and that's a wrap.
Thank you so much.